The basic context, and this is sort of a big buzzword within real social dynamics, is the word reacting. Reactive, like who's the more reactive, how to be unreactive, those kinds of things. Who's reacting more? And of course, if you're not careful, this can put you into a mental knot, right? Because you're doing mental backflips. Am I reacting to this? Am I reacting to that? I'm not trying to lead you down that path, although you know what? Thinking that way for a short period of time could at least make you aware of what's going on. So, between two people, let's look at the dynamics here, and I want you to really key into this. First of all, the dynamic of who is screening and who is trying to impress. The dynamic of who is screening and who is trying to impress can be very obvious. For example, in the case of a guy going, oh, you know, I have this watch, blah, blah, blah. Or it can be really, 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 really subtle. All right? It can be absolutely subtle. It can just be who's going more into their head and exerting more effort. All right? On the other hand, these principles are not universal. Because what if you're just in the mood to blab your mouth off, you're just blabbing away, and the girl is trying to impress you by not talking? Right? She's like, oh, I'm just not going to say anything so that I seem aloof. Right? Notice this. There's no escaping the truth. Remember how I said the self is always coming through? There's no tactic for this. All right? Look, tactics are like Band-Aid solutions. You can take the most desperate, needy guy in the world and say to him, okay, dude, when you go up to this girl, I want you to say, can you cook? Because if you can't cook, I'm breaking up with you. And the girl will go, oh, that's so funny. Right? And she'll touch him and she'll go, no, I can cook. Oh, you know, stuff like that. Or are you adventurous or whatever it is. And these are good lines. In fact, I recommend lines like this because teaching a newbie what effect this has. I mean, to tell a newbie, like, look, go up and ask the girl if she's adventurous, and tell her if she's not adventurous, you won't hang out with her. And then the girl starts qualifying herself to you, saying, no, I'm so adventurous. To a newbie who hasn't been laid in months or whatever, this is like a gift from God, right? This is like earth-shattering, mind-blowing stuff, right? Because we're seeing that dynamic that's taking place. But in truth, it can only be kept up for so long, right? Because sooner or later, the woman's going to be like, you know, next you're like, do you like to go to the bar? Because if you don't like to go to the bar, I won't hang out with you, right? Do you like to come to the restaurant? Because if you don't want to come to the restaurant, I won't hang out with you, right? And she's like, well, no kidding, okay? So you can't really hide it, right? It's the same thing with, like, you know, the neg, right? Like tossing, like, you know what, you and I would not get along. You know why? We're too similar. You wouldn't take my shit, I wouldn't take your shit. A line like that, we call those a button push, right? And it does create immediate attraction. It'll create, like, if you say that, it will spark a 5-second, 10-second, 20-second burst of attraction. But why don't we go deeper? Because that's what I did, right? Like, we came up with these cool lines. They're really great and everything. This was way back in the day, 5 years ago, had lines like this, right? And then we saw that they worked. But we said, well, what's the principle behind them? For example, to say, you and I wouldn't get along, we're too similar. Well, what does a line like that communicate about you that could be attractive?
You have rapport.
You're abundant.
You're abundant. Oh, yeah. What else?
You have rapport already. You just
Yeah. It could be like a playful back and forth. What else?
Stronger reality.
What's that? Yeah, pulling back her reality. We'll talk more about that soon in depth. Yeah. What else?
You're judging her.
Yeah, you're judging her, right? You're the judge. So when you communicate that, yeah, you've got a quick little fix there, right? So I can come up here and I can sort of, throw that onto a DVD product, and people will say, yeah, Tyler, I tried out your idea and it worked really great. Of course, did you actually have any real success? Well, yeah, the girl giggled and stuff, right? And it does create a short-term thing of attraction. And in fact, there's no reason not to use it. If you like that type of humor, if it just arises out of you and you say a funny thing like that, I'll say stuff like that, sure, it's fine. But the point is, let's go deeper, guys. Why don't we use the surface-level tactics and techniques that we've learned and go deeper beneath the surface to see what is good about it, and then see how we could actually integrate that into every aspect of our being. How's that sound? Right? How does that sound? Right? That's definitely pretty hyped up, all right? Okay, so, something like who is screening and who is trying to impress. I'll talk more about this later, but in a lot of ways, look, when you're talking to a girl, and I'll talk more about this later, when you're just in the moment, right? Just, even like feeling your breath, feeling the inner body, just looking around the environment, just feeling good, and just sharing with the girl and talking to her, you're not trying to impress. At all. At all, right? And she feels that, and she goes, wow, I really want to impress this guy. You see, because you've done something good. It's called authentic, right? We called it, the Blueprint book. It's called the blueprint: attraction, authenticity, and deep identity level change. And one of the themes of authenticity is like really bringing these in so that they're a part of who you are. Like actually becoming a better person who has that level of depth. Okay? So creating depth within yourself. And when you're someone who has depth within himself, that is an attractive thing. And you never have, like, that's why I don't really get so much the approach anxiety these days, right? Because it's not like I'm like, okay, I've got to say this and this or whatever, right? If I have that depth, then when I'm speaking with a woman, it's kind of automatically there. And that's what this is what I'm trying to get into your guys' heads. So when we look at that dynamic, who is screening and who is trying to impress? Right? And when I say screening, that doesn't even have to mean that you're really screening her. It's just that you're enjoying your time. And if she does something to screen herself out, then she does something to screen herself out. If not, that's fine too. All right? Meanwhile, she may be a girl of sort of a higher level of consciousness, and she does not try to impress you, and that's fine. In fact, when you meet a girl who is on a level where she doesn't feel like she has to impress you, and she's on that level because she has that kind of depth, and you have that kind of depth, there's usually going to be an immediate connection right there. Whether or not that has to turn into a sexual thing or not, that's your choice. But the point is there is that kind of chemistry. Let's go next. The next one. Who is emotionally affected by the other person's acceptance, and who would feel no change? All right? So I want you guys to think right now think about people who you've met in your life who, when you were speaking with them, you cared about their acceptance, right? Maybe you were coming from a scarcity mindset, and you're like, okay, I want to impress this person. How about this? If they leave, would you feel affected by it? And when I say affected, what I mean is like, that good feeling that you have in your body, like just that good feeling, like you could just be standing there waiting for a bus, and just like that good feeling that's in your body. Well, when that person comes, do you feel more of it, and then suddenly when they leave, you feel like you're lacking it? In that case, that person probably has the stronger reality in the situation. All right? You are probably reacting more than they are. All right, next. This is really interesting. Okay, I think that this, and it reflects a lot of stuff we've spoken about so far, I think this has got to be one of the coolest things in this whole deal. And that is, who is losing their concept of what's cool and who feels no change? And what I mean by that, I want you to think about this. Say that you have a certain way of speaking, right? Maybe certain jokes that do you have any funny kind of mannerisms or anything like that, in your conversation? You're French Canadian, right? Yeah. Yeah, so French Canadian people are known to have a lot of funny expressions and stuff like that, funny ways of expressing themselves. Well, say that, let's say that you're speaking with somebody, and whereas at home when you're with your friends, maybe you're, I don't know, whatever kind of expression that you have, right? I have all these funny ones coming to my mind. But the point is that you have those expressions, and then suddenly you're speaking with someone, and you feel like you can't speak in that way anymore, right? Like maybe you're speaking with someone very formally, or rather, they're speaking with you formally, and suddenly, for no apparent reason, by the way, because it's completely arbitrary, you just feel inclined to speak that way back. Maybe someone sends you an email in a certain type of conversation, and then you speak back in that style. The classic example, say you're hanging out in New York, right? And you got the big homeboys and stuff like that, and you see the little white guys, and those guys are like, yo, what's up, boy? And then the white guy's like, yo, what up, my G, right? He's like, what's up, Holmes? Like that. And then the guy's just like, like that. Because they see it, right? Like they see, some little white guy trying to talk like he's from the ghetto, trying to talk like, he's a gangsta or something like that because he's trying to fit into their reality. All right? Yeah, question?
Just a comment. I know it's a very subtle one, being from England. Mm-hmm. A lot of Americans would try and drop in British phrases that they think I won't know that they don't know America. They say, oh, it's bloody awful. I know Americans say bloody. I mean, they use it, and I'm like, you're just saying bloody because you're trying to be like me.
Yeah. That's bloody interesting. All right, okay, that's cool. Yeah. Bloody interesting, I say. All right, so look, when you're speaking with a girl, right? Say you're in California, for example. You're speaking to some girl from Cali, and the girls from Cali, they're like not all. Okay, I'm throwing massive stereotypes around here, all right? But just, bad man, whatever, all right? Try and draw some principles. Now look, say that you're talking to a girl from Cali, and she's like, oh my God, I can't believe it. Oh, I know, I couldn't, he just brought out my parking, it took forever. Ugh, my daddy, he bought me a BMW and he brought it to school with a bow on it. Can you believe that? I was so mortified, all right? And so suddenly you'll see guys that are like, they're trying to talk to the girl and they're like, oh, girl, I know, yes, I know. And they're trying to fit in with that, right? They're trying to match that type of talking, all right? The same thing goes from like your own, look, have you guys ever found yourself talking to somebody and then they say that they don't like something that you really like, and then maybe you pretend that you don't like that anymore? All right? And look, that doesn't mean like, okay, so in the real social dynamics seminar, I learned I have to be unreactive. So like, if someone says he doesn't like something, I have to immediately assert my views that I do like it. I'm not telling you that you have to do that. A lot of time people say they don't like something that I like, and I just don't have anything to say about it, and that's fine. You don't have to react against being reactive. Because that's like reacting and reacting. So that doesn't make any sense. Paradoxical. But simultaneously, you just want to do your own thing. So what that means is like when I'm talking to somebody, if they have a different opinion from mine, I'm not going to start qualifying myself to show how I agree with them or anything like that. I mean, look, maybe I will a little bit on some level. I'm not trying to tell you guys never ever do that. Don't be versatile in any way, shape, or form. Maybe you can just be trying to move a social situation through your life quickly or whatever it is. But the point is, generally, I try not to feel that need to have to change up what I'm saying. All right, and that's what I want to see you guys doing. If you have your own type of humor, like for example, actually, I'm going to talk about something I really love here. Whenever I'm training a guy on the long term, like if I've worked with a guy in the long term, one of the things that I will eventually really try to incorporate into his interactions with women is to get his real sense of humor out. And this is an interesting thing because, okay, take my buddy Oljai, for example. This guy has this wacky sense of humor, all right? So he, like, for example, he uses puns. Like, who uses puns, right? You know? Like the lowest common denominator of humor humanly possible, all right? Or he will say, like, and he also likes to beatbox. Like, he beatboxes and stuff like that. And he makes all these stupid jokes. But the thing is, he is amused by these jokes. Like, he is incredibly, incredibly amused by this kind of a humor. And when he's with us, with his friends, he will always throw that stuff in, right? But when he's around girls, when I first met him, he wouldn't throw that stuff in there, right? So one of the things that he kind of worked on was bringing his real humor into the interaction. And rather than trying to react to the type of humor that she likes, having more centeredness, conviction, and rootedness, or whatever you want to call it, in your own sense of humor. All right? In your own beliefs, in your own opinions, your own little mannerisms and vibes and stuff like that. All right? So basically, that's the next one that we're talking about, which is who is losing their concept of what's cool and who doesn't feel any change. And I always think it's really great when two people can interact together and they both get to keep their concept of what's cool and there's nothing going on there. More authentic type of interaction. Likewise, as we just covered, who is changing the way that they normally talk in order to keep up, and who is setting the tone of the conversation. Likewise, who would feel like they're having just as much fun if the other person wasn't there, and who would feel like they're getting kicked out of the warm end of the pool. Look, if you ever want to see where is like the epicenter of the party, right guys? Where is the epicenter? Where are the cool people? The cool people in, be it the nightclub, the party, wherever it is, are the people who are having their own fun, and they're not inconsiderate, but they're not overly worrying about other people having fun. And you see that, for example, the guys that are really successful with women, they go to the club and they're having their own fun. And if the girl's talking to them and the girl leaves, they don't feel like something was lost. Like they might say, okay, well, I was having fun talking to her, but they don't feel like that neediness for her to come back, okay? They have that same good feeling in their body whether the girl is there or not. All right? So that's what you guys have to have. It's like you can leave for a little bit, have fun with your friends, and you're not doing it to show her, right? Like, look, now's the time for a takeaway, and you have to show her that you don't care. It's cool to do that, all right? Do you guys know what a takeaway is? That's where you're talking to a girl, and she's really into you and having fun, and then you just kind of leave for a bit. And she goes, damn, I was having fun with that guy. And she realizes how much she likes you at that point. But the thing is, on one level, sure, it's great to show the girl that you can have fun without her. But on another level, here's a thought. I mean, it's just a thought. You can take it or leave it. How about really having fun without her? How about actually having fun on your own time? I mean, now fuck that, man. You just got to get the girl. Just focus on. No, you see what I'm saying? Have fun on your own time. Quick question.
How do you pull it off if you're alone?
That's a tough one. You can have fun on your own too. Yeah. No, it is a tough one. I'm not even kidding. Like I'm joking, but simultaneously it's true. Like most people do not have fun sitting at a bus stop. Most people don't have fun waiting in the line at the bank. Why? It's called resistance, right? They think that certain things are supposed to be going on, they can't amuse themselves. And that's where the concepts like meditation come in, right? Have you ever done meditation, Dan?
Yeah.
Okay. So when you do meditation, you feel the inner body, right? Does it feel warm and pleasant?
Yeah.
Sure, right? All right. No, it doesn't. I'm just messing with you. No. Yeah, it feels warm and pleasant, right? You can just sit there on your own. That's called being a self-amused individual. Being a guy who has his own fun. All right? Someone who can go take a trip to Europe and doesn't need to have a friend. All right? Someone who can go traveling on their own and do their own thing. It's called being independent. All right? And that really comes from what we talked about yesterday, which is not always looking at the surface of things, but looking into the depth of things. So, for example, could you just look at this bottle of water, and this sounds completely dumb and off the wall to most people here, and I understand that, but could you look at this bottle of water and just be amused by it? You know, can you? All right? And the ability to amuse yourself is one of the most incredibly attractive qualities that anyone can have on all levels, because it's going to eradicate the highest level of neediness, and you're the party. All right? And, you know, there's different types of level. Like when we talk about bringing the party, which we'll talk about later, there's different levels of it, right? I mean, one level is just feeling good. The other level is like when you're with your friends and creating that party. Well, obviously, if you're on your own, it's a little bit harder to create the party. Do we have Zach in the house right here, by the way? There's Zach back there. That's my buddy Zach, right? And, okay, I can't see that far back. But basically, Zach, that motherfucker can bring the party without anybody, all right? Like when we went to Italy, he can just go off on his own, and he just starts dancing. He's like, yeah, right? He just says, and that guy has more fun than anybody. But Zach is also one of the higher self-esteem people I've ever met, okay? So how old are you, Zach? 37, right? Have you been like that since you were a kid, or did you develop that as you got on in life?
I think it's been over time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Definitely seeking my own path.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like you grew into it, huh? And I think that that's something that comes with maturity. That's why every year that goes by, you can become more successful to women, even as you get older, because you become more centered. We'll talk about that. So look, yeah, when you're on your own, you have to be centered in your own reality and enjoying yourself, be able to enjoy and look around and just enjoy the environment. And then, because the problem is, if you're on your own, right, and say that you're a person who only sees the surface of things. So you're only looking at the surface. So it's like, oh, is this girl, like, do I have a big group of girls around me right now that are providing me with stimulation, right? And you need that surface level of amusement all the time in order to enjoy yourself. Well, of course, you're walking around the club and then you're like, I don't have that surface level of amusement, so you don't feel very good. And then when you go up to the girl, you're coming up with that half-empty cup, as I so eloquently exhibited over here, drooling on myself. And essentially, that's not a good thing because you're having to switch modes, right? You're having to switch modes from feeling needed to trying to act cool. This is why things like television and video games and all the instant stimulation that goes on when we grow up, although it can have positive effects, like I think by playing Doom or Wolfenstein, you can learn problem solving and stuff like that. But then on another level, it also can turn you into a stimulation junkie. Whereas like a kid that just grew up having to play imagination games with his friends, like out in the prairies or something like that, or 100 years ago, or say all he had was like a wooden horse, okay, and like two like wooden toys that he like just bashes together and like imagines all this stuff. In a lot of ways, that's going to teach self-amusement. Bertrand Russell actually spoke about that, or he wrote about that in one of his books, about how kids are just they have so much instant gratification these days, so much different stimulation that they grow up and they don't know how to enjoy the depth of life. And obviously there's exceptions to every stereotype. Now, strong reality. What does that mean? Again, you have a strong reality of who you are, right? Like that really core concept. Like your reality of who you are is strong and unshakable. And this is why you're not going to do things like try to impress. That doesn't mean that you can't impress. That doesn't mean that that you're somehow restricted from saying impressive things. It just means that you're not feeling this need to get validation and sort of, you remember we talked about the rhythms, okay? So let's go back to that because it's important. Or I'll just redraw it. We talked about the rhythms, right? And say that the rhythm of like a cool guy is something like that. Well, what neediness does is it fucks up your flow and fucks up your rhythm because you start going like this. You're not on the rhythm. Okay? You've lost it. All right? When you feel good, you go with the rhythm very nicely. All right? So in other words, you can say to a girl, say that you're a doctor or something that's impressive. It can come out that you're a doctor. The problem is when it comes out off rhythm, like at the wrong time. She can sense, be it consciously or more common unconsciously, that you drop that out there because you're looking for a reaction from her in order to make your reality stronger. That is what she is sensing off of you. And attraction goes down. When you feel good on your own, that's why like that whole feeling good inside yourself, just like being able to be alone in a room, being able to wait at a bank line and just feel good, that good feeling naturally leads to that unreactive quality, all right? That nice unreactiveness. That's a very RSC buzzword, unreactiveness. When you're already feeling good, you're not feeling that pull, that black hole of neediness. All right, so look, by not allowing your own behaviors and emotions to be thrown off by the other person's reality, you are being the most unreactive. That doesn't mean, quick misinterpretation check here. Does unreactive mean being unresponsive? No. Does unreactive mean being inexpressive?
No.
Good. All right? Because a lot of guys hear about being unreactive and they turn into Clint Eastwood. Okay? That's what they do. And then later, they might say, I've just learned to be myself now. Fuck all this unreactive shit. But you see, that's what being unreactive is. It's about being expressive. It's about responding to the world, but on your own terms. As we say, acting through your own intentions. So, a lot of the time, I will use descriptions that I feel will connect with different people. Some people can only think in terms of negatives. Some people can only think in terms of positives. For example, if I say to someone, look, have good eye contact, good body language, good voice, that may connect with them. But other people, you have to tell them, don't be a bitch, don't have a weak voice, don't get uptight. Different forms of communication connect with different people. So I try to use a broad range of terms so that every single one of you here can connect with these ideas. So in a lot of ways, being unreactive, right? Another way of looking at that is acting through your own intentions, okay? Which is a great buzzword, acting through your own intentions. Now look, can you react to the things that you like and appreciate? Sure. Can you react to a reality that you want? Sure. But say that a girl tries to push you into the role. Remember we talked about roles? When she tries to push you in the role of chasing her, when she tries to put you into the role of impressing her, you don't allow that into your reality. You don't react to that as being a part of your reality. Here's the key. Key right here. You stay positive. You stay upbeat. And you say being you. And you draw her into that good reality and state that you're in. And that is, we talk about advanced pickup artistry. We talk about the things that allow the best guys to be successful. That is absolutely one of them, okay? Basically, have you guys ever heard the expression plowing? Yeah, plowing? All right. When we think about plowing, it's the same sort of thing. You're talking to the girl, she's not responding properly, and you hold they call it holding the frame, right? Holding your frame of reality, all right? Holding your state. You're talking to her, and she might be saying, oh, you're a jerk, or you're a player, go away. But you don't let that affect you. You hold your state, all right? You're not reacting to these negative outside influences. The best way that I could describe that to you, the very, very best way I could describe it to you, is imagine you've got a hole which is shaped like a triangle, and then you've got a peg that's shaped like a circle. What happens when you try and shove the circular peg into the triangle hole? It doesn't go, right? That's what being unreactive means when you're talking about being unreactive to negative feedback. What you're essentially communicating is, this is so far outside my reality to be treated negatively. Not only am I not going to put up with negative bullshit, okay? Let's take it a level higher. Not only do I not put up with negativity, I don't even realize that negativity exists because I've never seen it. AKA, the way you're acting is retarded because nobody else acts like you. Think of what's being communicated there. Like, if you've got that sort of, that unreactivity, right? Like, you're talking and she's reacting in a negative way and you can't even see it. Like, you can't even tell. You guys know Pepe Le Pew? Who's Pepe Le Pew? The skunk, right?
Fermenting the cat. You can't even see it. No matter what they do, she loves me more. She's running away just to prove her love for me.
Yeah, okay? Think Pepe Le Pew, okay? You want a poster? Take down your Justin Timberlake poster. All right? I'm not taking mine down, but you guys can take your JT poster. All right, look. Put up a poster of Pepe Le Pew. You know, even though the guy doesn't really have the best game, right? But he will not be denied, okay? Pepe, all right? That guy doesn't see negative feedback. And by the way, we're going to talk about pros and cons of that in a little bit. A lot of the things that we're talking about, we look at the surface, and later we'll go more into depth. So there are pros and cons of that. But for the most part, you want to have the advantages of the Pepe Le Pew without the disadvantages. And we'll talk about how you could achieve that as this goes on. Now, okay, so thank you so much. All right. So the thing is, like I said, okay, little illustration. If this is your perceptual input, and she tries to say something negative, no worky, okay, no worky, doesn't go. That's what basically being unreactive is. You're feeling good in your body, and negativity is not entering into your space. As a result, you pull people into that. Why? Whoever has the strongest reality, what? Win. Good. Ultimately, the key question is, who is changing the way they act to try to get value from the other person, and who is being more themselves? All right? Are you trying to change the way that you act to get value from that person, or are you being yourself? That's essentially what the unreactiveness comes down to. Who's reacting to who more? Now, here's another key. And this is another misconception. So in the same way that some people will hear about being unreactive and they'll become like Clint Eastwood, another common misinterpretation is that people will think that it is now their job to assert their reality over other people. Is having the dominant reality, is it about asserting your reality over others? No. Who are you asserting your reality over?
Yourself.
Yeah, and then what happens oftentimes?
Sucks them in.
Correct. And if it doesn't, that's fine. All right? You're not going around trying to suck other people into your reality. Come on. Talk about win-lose. All right? People have the choice. They have the choice, and you leave them the choice. So, have dominion over your own mind. It's called being self-possessed. That's what having a strong reality is about. Now look. This is something that I think absolutely affects most people that I meet. And it's a lacking. Trust in your faculties. Look, most people don't trust themselves. Most people are not able to look at reality for what it is. They need to look to others for guidance. Remember we talked yesterday about the earthquake. Earthquake goes on. Tsunami may be coming. What do most people do? Go back to bed. They put their lives in the hands of others. All right? Likewise, The riot. We gave the riot example. Everyone's breaking stuff? Right? Boom. That's how most people think. Most people need to be told what to do. They have not exercised the muscle of going off of first-hand experience. They haven't exercised that muscle. They haven't come to be able to trust their own eyes. Many people bury themselves in other people's principles. They shelter themselves by interpreting the world through the eyes of others. They don't have the trust or belief in their own eyes. This is definitely a root cause between what makes a guy phenomenally attractive and what makes him unattractive, isn't it? Because when you trust your own judgment, look, you're speaking to a woman, right? And say she gives you a test. She throws some kind of test at you. Let's say that the test is even really accurate. Look, let's say that she says something that is spot on. Because you want to know something? When you have some dorky thing about you, like I weigh about 175 pounds right now. I weighed 200 pounds last year. All right, because I bulked up. I ate and ate, lifted heavy weights, bulked up. Now I'm cutting. I've got about 10, 15 more to lose. So last year when I weighed 200 pounds, you better believe I got tested on it. You guys remember transformations? A little pudgier than now, right? Okay. Well, the thing was, wait till my next one. I'll be good. So look, okay. I would have made it all the way down for this one, but I went to Italy for 2 months. Lost a little progress, but look. But it was fucking glorious. All right. Now, you're talking to the woman, right? And she throws those tests at you. And when you can just look at her, like she just tests you, and you just kind of look at her and you're like, and see, that's where the unreactiveness comes from, right? She sees it in your pupils, that you didn't retreat into your head. You didn't go, is that true? Is what she said, is that true? Right? That's the key. All right? When you have, look, if you're short, you better believe that when you've got a girl coming home in the car with you, she might say shit like, I don't go home with short guys. I can't even believe I'm doing this. All right? If you're overweight, you better believe she might rub your belly and go, you got the Buddha belly. All right? I know. Okay? So the thing is, you better believe that. All right? If you've got a hairy back, girls, when they see it, they might say, I hate guys with a hairy back. It's nasty. All right? And there's different ways you can handle that. You know? You do? Well, sorry. Okay? I'm sorry about that. All right? Okay? Or you can be like, oh. Okay? Right? And think about it. What does the girl care about more? Does she care about the actual aspect of you? Or does she care about how it affects you? Isn't that funny, right? She wants to know, how is this guy affected by whatever perceived superficial shortcomings that I'm seeing? That is what she's looking for. Does it affect him? Does it bother him? Does it cause him to react? What does it do to him? She's looking at you to see that. That's what she wants to know. The actual quality itself is really arbitrary, guys. It doesn't matter. So, being unreactive. You walk up to the girl. She starts throwing shit at you. Girls can throw different shit at you. Maybe she'll start saying, they can even throw obnoxious stuff like, do you want to fuck me? You know, stuff like that, right? Is that your pickup line? Other times they don't throw that stuff at all. You'll find that when you get better, okay, do you guys know the cycle with congruence tests? The cycle goes like this. When you start, do you get congruence tests? Of course not. Why? Girls aren't mean. Most, right? Most girls are not mean. They're not like going up to like people that are not any kind of threat or anything, just like loser, jerk. They're not doing that. When a girl's testing you, that's because she thinks, he might be attractive. Let's see what he's all about. Let's see what he's all about, okay? Shh. Good. Let's see what he's about. So, she tests. But let me ask you this. Would a girl have to test Brad Pitt? Like, I don't know if this guy is good material for me to hook up with. Right? Let's see if he thinks he's a jerk or not. All right? Most girls don't really need to do that. So you'll find that you started off where you didn't get any tests. Then as you got a bit of progress, you get more tests. And then later you'll start to get less and less tests to the point where maybe you don't even get them, or at least very rarely. And that's because you're very obviously rooted in your reality. But regardless, that unreactiveness, you're not qualifying yourself, you're not trying to impress, you're just being you. Okay? Remember how they say be yourself? It's kind of like that. Little bit something like that. So when you trust in your own judgment, let me give you some examples. Let's bring this back to the RAS example, reticular activation system. Have you guys ever known somebody who, when they got insulted, became obsessed with the person that insulted them or obsessed with the insult itself? Anyone ever seen something like that? All right? People that just react too easily. When somebody insults you, let's say that that's your whole perception of reality. And someone says something. Let's say that that person, do you remember how we said if someone has high value to you, they're going to be in your RAS? So if you think about it, if you get an insult, say that you get an insult, and they were already high in your reticular activation system, then that insult is going to be focused on. Correct or incorrect?
Correct.
Good. Now, what if that person throws an insult, but they were not in your focus? For example, what if some mentally ill homeless person on the street is like, "You're a meanie." Okay? We said that on tape. Okay, he's like, okay. All right. Look, you're a meanie. Are you going to start thinking about it or hearing it or anything like that? No. Of course not. What if someone who you view as having high value says it? Well, of course, the inclination is to start focusing on it. This is why when people react too strongly to criticism, you can see that they're too attached to it. And what do we call that? We call that giving your power away. When somebody is reacting too strongly to criticisms of others, they are giving their power away. They're giving that person status. They're showing that person is obviously in my RAS, and I'm going to react to it, and I can't help myself. And I need to keep talking and convincing other people so that way I can believe it myself that I'm not what he said. So what does it mean, putting on a front, justifying or qualifying yourself, trying to think of what you'll say to make somebody like you, worrying about their opinions, feeling emotional about whether or not they hang out with you? That's a funny one, being emotional about whether or not they hang out with you. It's probably a sign, if you have those behaviors, that that person is so much in the forefront of your reality that they must have a lot of value to you. It basically communicates, and this is straight from my notes, I don't value my own faculties highly enough to take my own opinion of myself over somebody else's. I need other people to believe what I believe in order to make it real. I value other people's opinions more highly than I value my own. And again, that comes down to seeing the world through your own eyes. The girl teases you, it just bounces off you. Other people tease you, it bounces off you. You see the world through your own eyes. You trust your own opinion of yourself. Do you guys see how this also comes into play with creativity at all?
Sure.
Say that you're writing a book, drawing a painting, creating a song. If you're continually thinking about other people's reality for that song or their reception, is that a good creative state?
No.
Creativity, whether it's acting, music, making a graphic design, whatever it is, you have to have that trust in your own eyes. You have to believe, this is what I like. I value my own opinion. My sense of reality is strong enough. And you want to know what? The same goes for meeting women, doesn't it? Because the gurus, right, the guys that are considered great at this, are really the guys, what made them stand out, is that they're the guys that said, this is my new line. This is my new method. This is my new outlook on female psychology. And they believe it. They are the ones that have that sort of belief or trust in their own faculties. And because they have a high level of trust in their own faculties, other people follow them. You guys ever seen the TV show Lost? It's a very popular show where I'm from, because I'm from Honolulu now. You know the character Jack? Jack is the one who in the show, in the writing of the show, who sees the world through his own eyes. So other people look towards him because they need that leadership position. That's what they want. Well, in the same way, women are a lot more likely to respond to you when you see the world through your own eyes. You trust your own faculties. Okay? And there's pros and cons to this, and we'll get into this later. Okay? Because a lot of the time, people that trust so strongly in their own faculties are also closed off to feedback and can become too strong-headed, too rigid.
And that's like with actors, where you've got people who are artists, but women get very attracted to them because they're in their own reality. Like they got someone like a painter or something.
Oh, yeah.
With Picasso, women throwing them at them.
Between that and the fact that they have social proof,
Yeah.
oh, man. Yeah, of course. Absolutely. So let's go into the concept of social pinging. This is it right here, guys. Here's the formula. Look at it. That's what you need to know. Most unwavering certainty, least emotional reaction to conflicting views. Laid out succinctly right there. All right? Whoever has the most unwavering certainty and least emotional reaction to conflicting views will tend to have the dominant reality. That's the principle behind it. People's views of reality are very subjective and always up for grabs. So I'll say that again. People's concept of reality, most people's concept of reality, certain, uncertain.
Certain. Uncertain.
You know why I give him props? Because he took a shot. He didn't sit there going, oh. You're like, fuck it. Okay, that's fair. Second language too, right? Okay, all right. So look, most people's concept of reality tends to be very uncertain. Most people don't tend to be very certain of the reality. Again, walking through life in walking days. So when you have the more certain, when you have unwavering certainty and the least reaction to conflicting views, they will tend to look to you. Imagine it like, okay, here's a picture. They're doing this. And this is very much a hypnosis principle. At first, you guys remember social pinging, right? At first, they're going like this. Like that. What happens when you start, say that you're here, okay? You guys want to be green or red?
Green.
Nice. You even have a bigger smile too. See, that's like the befuddled man. Like, he has a little question mark there. I had such a good grade in kindergarten art class. Man, you guys, I got the certificate. Now look, what's happening is essentially, at first, reality is pinging like that, all right? But what begins to happen, as the certainty becomes accepted, it starts to go like this. Yes. It goes like that on all levels. All right? And then all of a sudden, he's like, yeah. Okay? So look. He's got a C-shaped smile, man. So, look. So we say to ourselves, look, that's how a strong reality gets imposed. So look, say that an emergency breaks out. Okay? Say that you're in a subway and the subway crashes, and people get a bit knocked up, right? Typically, what will happen is like everyone's like who's gonna be the leader? Who's gonna be the leader? And then someone's kind of like, boom. He's like, okay. Like at some point, someone goes, well, I guess nobody else is gonna step up. All right. And then he starts to make moves, right? He starts to make the decisions. This is why most people in an emergency tend to be useless. In fact, just excess baggage who you have to help. Because they cannot keep their cool. They are too attached to their concept of like, reality looked like this a minute ago. Why did it change? And the resistance overwhelms them. Most people are just looking towards others to think of how they should think or act. They are always seeking out certainty, and whoever has the strongest, most rock-solid, fixed interpretation of reality will usually have the most influence and, quote-unquote, draw them into their world. So essentially, look, if you believe that some shortcoming that you have, like whether it's height, money, some superficial nonsense, if you believe that that is a shortcoming, then it is. All right? If you believe that whatever limitation that you have is a shortcoming, it is. If you don't believe it's a big deal, if you believe that humans come in all races, shapes, and sizes, and that is completely arbitrary, then it's not a big deal. All right? So it's up to you. I want you guys to think about any shortcoming that you feel that you have right now. Whether it's a big deal or not is entirely up to you. Okay? Really. And we can kind of like have a sort of an interesting debate about that in the sense that you could say, well, I mean, look, if you have like this wrong with you or this wrong with you, you should fix it. And I think that makes sense. I think that for your own set of standards, if you have something that you need to fix about yourself, you should fix it. But don't ever mistake the fact that there are guys with all sorts of stuff wrong with them out there that are having a lot of success with women. Maybe most of the ones that are like that don't, but you've always got those freak cases. Does anyone know anyone who's like, very unusually unattractive in some regards, superficially, but who still does totally well with women and who you're almost envious of like their skills, like just so awesome? Yeah? You do? Dan, you do, right? Yeah? We all know somebody like that because they've decided not to make it an issue. My friend Hubi, he says, so many people are placing limitations on me, I just thought, why would I place more on myself? And that's how simple he thinks of it. Like to him, you know how I talk about how something can click in your reality? That simple statement, because Hubi's not like the type of guy to overanalyze things, that very, very simple statement just means everything to him. It's like, yeah, why would I put a limitation on myself? Everyone else is always trying to do that. I don't want to do that. If only it was so easy, right? If only it was so easy as that. But really, you know what? It is, if you let it be. If you can let it be. So, your reality. You're a worthwhile guy. You have a lot going for yourself. You're totally happy and comfortable with your looks. You're totally happy and comfortable with your lifestyle. You've got an abundance of women who want to be your life. And if you are so convinced of it that you will not show the slightest reaction to anything else, then people are drawn into that reality. That's what it's going to come down to, okay? You can bring people into your reality. Look, anytime that you're talking about women in general, of course you're making generalizations. So let's make some generalizations about women here. And of course, all women are different, but ultimately all people have more similarities than they do differences. So let's draw some similarities here. Think about yourself as a guy, as some kind of like an island. So, different guys are like islands. And think of the woman as like an explorer, right? That's her. That's a boat, by the way. Okay? It's a sailboat, if you didn't notice. So, look, what girls tend to do is they will go on voyages into different guys' reality, right? To check them out and to see if they're fun. So, most guys have it ass backwards. Because essentially, you want to know what most guys are trying to do?
Put the country inside the ship.
Trying to what?
Put the country inside the ship. They're trying to fit like their reality into what she...
I thought that was like some like bizarre, hard to understand sex metaphor. Yeah. Yeah, no. Yeah, they're trying to, either A, they're trying to put their country inside the ship, or B, they're trying to be this, right? When you take a woman out, you're inviting her into your reality. Isn't that one of those critically counterintuitive ideas? That when you take a woman out, You have to bring her into your reality, not vice versa. So see, what most guys do is they're like, okay, what would the woman like? I know. She would like to be on a date where I take her out and give her everything she wants. Effective? No, not really. What's interesting is that, you know what are great ways to take a girl out? Sounds funny. Take her shopping for you, for yourself. Right? Like, I need to find a shirt. Let's go. All right? Or, yeah, I need to go get groceries. Let's go. All right? Say, hey, we'll hang out. Hey, I'm grabbing some groceries. Let's go. All right? And that's not even like a tactic. That's not like, yeah, like show her how much you don't even care by like saying, yeah, I don't even care so much that I would shop for groceries in front of you. Like, I'm not trying to come from that angle. All right? What I'm trying to say here is literally you are inviting her into your world. All right? Bringing her into your reality. And she's getting a taste of that. Because you know what? She's going to be invited into the realities of many different men. And she's going to go to the one that is the most exciting and compelling and interesting for her, where she feels good, where she gets the most good emotions, right? Women, very emotional creatures, as are men. Women feel their emotions very powerfully, so where she gets the most good emotions is where she's going to tend to gravitate towards, whoever's reality that is. When I teach live boot camp programs, back when I was single, I used to bring girls out on them as a great way to hang out. Because look, what's my life? My life is teaching. So of course I'm going to invite her into my world. All right? Anywhere where you can invite the girl into your world and let her have a taste of it without putting any pressure on her to have to feel uncomfortable is really adding a lot of attraction. You know, simultaneously not putting pressure on her, but having that little bit of steady escalation physically at the same time. All right? It's kind of a paradoxical thing. So look, when you bring that girl into your reality, you're doing it the right way. When you're approaching a girl in a state of approach anxiety, saying, please dictate my reality to me. I don't know who I am. I'm feeling out of state. But if you could dictate to me that I'm cool by laughing at my jokes, that would be really great. You can do that, but everything that's masculine and attractive about you is being handed away. So that is the opposite of what works. Bring her into your reality. This is why when you do an approach, what's a great way to approach a girl? Just start talking. Just start talking about whatever silliness comes into your head. And she can mess around and play around in your reality, which is 100 times more exciting than what every other guy is doing.
So that's why, like on the day twos, you say on the foundations about that you bring them into your reality. Like you're talking about those different guys. Like one guy was a writer, and you bring a woman over
yes.
and you're writing.
You just be writing.
Exactly.
Running out the clock. Yeah, it's great. So look, bear in mind that that's ultimately what the girl wants, right? She wants that interesting experience. All right, so let's think about the strength of your reality as being like a muscle. Okay? Let's think of it as a muscle. And this is something that I love more than anything, in the sense that the strength of your reality grows every year of your life if you're living in the right way. So, signs of a weak reality. How about if somebody teases you, you feel affected? If somebody blows you off, like say that you were supposed to hang out with someone, they blow you off, and you're upset. Not upset because they violated your personal boundaries, and you're going to say, okay, that's not acceptable, but you're upset because it's affecting your own sense of self. That's a sign of a weak reality. Now, when we think of a strong reality, what I'm going to teach you guys is, remember how I said that there's no like 10 funky steps in this program? Well, that kind of wasn't totally true. Because I'm going to teach you the 4 pillars of a strong reality. There's 4, and you need to find them out, right? Okay? You guys will see that later in the sales material. The 4 pillars of a strong reality. So look, what are the 4 pillars of a strong reality? Think about this, guys. What might they be? Start imagining. First of all, the strength of your reality is, okay, think of it this way. In the same way, think about this. In the same way that when you lift weights, if you start off and you can only lift, say, 20-pound dumbbells when you start, and then as time goes on, you can curl 50-pound dumbbells after a couple years. The strength in your arms, the physical force that you're able to exert has increased. Likewise, The strength of your reality is a muscle. Because the more centered that you get in your own reality, the stronger that muscle gets to have influence. Strength of your reality. Again, how strong your beliefs are. How much your beliefs influence people to think and act how you expect. All right? How much the strength of your reality draws people in to start thinking and acting in the way that you expect. And lastly, as we said, how little your beliefs depend on the people around you to reinforce them. So as far as social interaction goes, the first pillar of a strong reality is who you are. That means your status, your sense of identity. We spoke about that, what you deserve out of life. That is the first pillar of a strong reality. Next, and this one is so cool, your values, such as your tastes and opinions, your sense of humor, that kind of thing. Now, why is that so cool? Well, first of all, when we think of identity, why is that cool? Well, when you know who you are, if you get blown off or a congruence test, you stay unreactive, you're unaffected. And isn't that great when you're really centered in your own identity? But next up, your values. Why is that even doubly cool? Well, as you see, when you know what you value, when you're speaking with a girl, you're not going to be intimidated by the superficial standards that she is living up to. Because when you see a girl who looks beautiful, if your system of values has been imposed on you by advertising, the media, and social conditioning, how well is a beautiful girl living up to those values?
Very well.
Like out of 10, if a girl is a 10, how well is she living up to them? A 10, right? And as we said, right, by a superficial set of values, she's got it all. She could be a 19-year-old girl with a pair of fake breasts purchased for her by her ex-boyfriend, who is very young in her life, right? That's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing. It just means she's young. She's making her way in the world. She's coming into her own. And that's fine, and I have total respect for that. But as a man who is rooted in your own values, in your own life, in your own path in life, is that cause for intimidation?
No.
Like, whoa, right? Like, oh my God, she's eating a sandwich. It's so amazing, right? Okay, it's such a gift. All right, look, the thing is, as a man, you cannot be intimidated by those superficial values. I knew a guy once. We were in Mel's diner, and there was this girl who had like a lot of cleavage showing. This girl's really, really gorgeous. And he said to her, "Am I supposed to be mesmerized?" Right? He's like, "What? Because you got some tits and ass. I'm supposed to be mesmerized." Right? Like, just mesmerized. And she laughed and laughed and laughed. Because the laughter of recognition?
Oh, yeah.
Well, she laughed because she realized, when I dress like that, I'm essentially going out trying to mesmerize guys. Because that's what she's doing, right? She's like a walking mesmerization machine. Just walks through, little female walk, and everyone around her is getting mesmerized. Like that. And it's the one guy that doesn't get mesmerized that she's going to try to mesmerize. And what does she say? "Oh, I will make him think I'm hot. Believe me, when I am riding him back at home, he will know how hot I am." All right, okay? That has to be, okay? But he will acknowledge it, all right? And so, essentially, that's not conscious. It's just a subconscious reaction. It's a knee-jerk reaction. And there's a lot of reasons for that, and we'll get into it. But, essentially, as a guy, you're not getting mesmerized. So when you know what your values are, number one, you don't get mesmerized by superficiality. You don't think you're cut from a different cloth. You know that all human beings have to piss and shit and fart and smell funny and all that kind of stuff, all right? You know that, okay? That's the thing. People that are too caught up in the plasticky, superficial image of humanity, like they look at Us magazine and they see the dress and like the makeup and the plastic surgery, they're like, wow, right? You know the guys that are really, really good with women? They're the ones that know they're human. They're like, yeah, they're not too self-conscious about themselves, and they're not too self-conscious about even beautiful girls, right? And you know what's interesting about that? There's two levels of attraction. Because on one level, when you're a chode, women are so attractive in like a goddess-like way. Isn't that funny, right? A woman is a goddess, okay? And then when you actually start getting success with women, you start dating, say that you date your first really hot woman, and you realize that A, she has to do things to make herself look like that, but even if she's naturally beautiful regardless, B, you realize that she's a human being, she might be needy, she might be psycho, whatever it is. And you realize that. And now women will no longer seem like a goddess. right? She might even seem a little bit annoying or whatever it is, right? And you go, wow, I thought all my problems were going to be solved. I thought that I said that if I just had a hot girl I could have sex with all day, I wouldn't care about anything else, and all my problems would be solved, and I've got this girl now, and my life is just the same. In fact, I just have more complex challenges to hit a day now because I've had this relationship. Didn't solve all my problems. Who would have thought? But you see, what's interesting is that you'll come to a place where women will become attractive again, but not on the surface, but in the depth. Remember how I talked about how initially we're conditioned to look at the surface, and later we look at the depth as we grow? Well, see, when you have your own sense of values, and women are not like these superficial goddesses to you anymore, so you'll never look at them in the same way, well, that's really a more healthy thing now, isn't it? That's a lot more healthy, because when you can see past the surface, you see the depth. All right? And then, of course, women will become even far more attractive than ever you experienced before, because now you're getting almost like that vibe off of her and like that energy off of her, and it's almost like could make you like weak in the knees, but not weak in the knees in the sense of like, oh, I need her validation so much, or of neediness, but just like she's just so awesome and it's just so cool, right? And you could take it or leave it because you're rooted in your own sense of who you are, but it's just such a cool bonus, right? It just adds fuel to your already existing fire. So anyway, on one level, knowing your own values, it allows you that. But number two, it also creates a dynamic. Now, doesn't it? Do you remember how we talked about the dynamic of who is trying to impress and who is screening? Well, when you have your own sense of values, does that lend more towards screening or trying to impress? Screening. Of course. So what happens, have you guys ever heard the expression naturally screening? You ever heard that one? Being naturally screening. A naturally screening person. Well, a naturally screening person is a great quality of someone who's attractive. Really is. Okay? Being a naturally screening human being. And what that does is it makes other people want to live up to your standards, doesn't it? Which is a lot more naturally attractive. So look, the first two pillars. One, what is it? What's number two? Values. Great. Now let's go to number three. Number three is called personal boundaries. And what personal boundaries means is that when someone steps over those boundaries, you don't allow it so much because you have a strong sense of what's acceptable in your reality and what is not acceptable. So for example, and I'm not telling you to do this as a tactic, and that's the opposite message of this program. I'm just trying to make a point, trying to illustrate a point here. If a woman comes to your house and you say, hey, take your shoes off, and you take your own shoes off, for example, is that going to decrease attraction or increase it?
Increase.
Why?
Your reality.
For one thing, you're leading.
You're leading, absolutely. What else?
And two, you're saying, hey, if you want to be here, you gotta step into like what I accept as acceptable behavior.
Yeah.
Respect my floor.
Yeah. Respect my floor. All right. Look, the thing is that what it really is this: if you're a guy, you guys are gonna try that, huh? Like, respect my floor, woman. All right. Look. Okay. Think about it. If a woman can see that you have no personal boundaries, what does that say about you? Can she trust you?
She has free reign.
What's that?
She has free reign.
Yeah, man. She has free reign. So if she has free reign, who else has free reign?
Everybody.
Right? If you're the kind of... Look, do you think a girl really cares that much if she has to take her shoes off? Of course not. But what she does care about is that you are a doormat and you let other people walk all over you. And now she has to be the man in the relationship.
So she can't surrender.
Yeah, exactly. And we'll get into that. So she can't surrender. She basically can't be in her own, feminine essence, her own feminine self. Because she's constantly having to be the man. So, sometimes when you're talking to a girl, maybe she has her arms crossed like that. And then you say, here, uncross your arms, right? And you'll find that when you do that kind of thing, women just giggle uncontrollably. And typically that's a giggling of attraction. But just showing those kinds of boundaries. If you want to see the power of it, okay, if you just want to try it as an experiment, try for one night going out and just drawing as many ridiculous, silly, arbitrary boundaries on any girl that you have a good interaction with that you could find, right? Uncross those arms. Here, move over here. Don't stand there, all right? Stop looking around. Stop being crazy, right? And you'll see when you do that kind of stuff, they just start laughing uncontrollably, right? And look, when you begin to do this, that's an experiment that I might have done 4 years ago, right? Now, if I draw boundaries on someone, I'm not thinking about it. I'm not like, it's time to draw a boundary. I'm not like, step 16, Draw a boundary, all right? I'm not thinking like that. But when you first get into this stuff, sometimes you have to think like that, don't you? You know, when it's not integrated yet, it's not internalized, not congruent yet. So drawing boundaries is always a good thing. And boundaries means things like being respectful. And likewise, it can mean valuing your time, all right? There's a great expression, you are the CEO of your own life, and you hire and fire at your own choosing. Okay? You hire and fire the people that get to be in your reality of your own choosing. I don't know. Sometimes I like slogans like that, sometimes I don't. It can be kind of win-lose, but it illustrates a point very succinctly, so that's why I like it. Be the CEO of your own life. And you know what's funny? It really isn't win-lose when you think about it, because everyone enjoys being around someone like that more, don't they? Like, people value someone who is centered a lot more. So it's not even